I never imagined that my own daughter would be the reason I lost my home at 72. But one morning, I woke up to a foreclosure notice. My entire savings wiped out. The most painful part. She still expected me to support her. That was the moment I learned a hard truth. Some relatives can quietly derail your golden years if you don't establish boundaries. This stage of life should be about peace, joy, and finally enjoying the freedom we've spent decades working for. But not every relationship fosters that peace. Some family members, whether intentionally or not, can drain your energy, undermine your independence, and make you feel guilty for prioritizing your own well-being. If you're not careful, they can take more from you than you ever thought possible. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Have you ever dealt with a toxic family member? If you believe in protecting your peace after 65, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living a strong, independent life. Now, let's get into it. The emotional storm chaser, when drama follows them everywhere. The first type of relative on our list might not seem harmful at first, but after every interaction, you're left feeling completely drained. You start your day in peace, maybe sipping your morning coffee, listening to the birds, or enjoying a good book. Then the phone rings. It's them. Before you can even say hello, they're already unloading their latest disaster. Who wronged them? What went wrong? How their life is falling apart. By the time the call ends, your calm morning has been replaced by stress that was never yours to carry. This is the emotional storm chaser, the relative who thrives on chaos. Their life is a constant whirlwind of problems, and somehow you always get pulled into the storm. They never ask how you're doing because, in their world, their problems take center stage. Every minor inconvenience turns into a crisis, and they expect you to be their emotional dumping ground. Now, to be fair, these people aren't necessarily bad. Many don't even realize the toll their behavior takes on others. But here's the issue. Stress isn't just an emotional weight. It has real physical consequences. Studies show that chronic stress increases the risk of heart disease, weakens the immune system, and even accelerates cognitive decline. So when someone constantly disrupts your peace with negativity, they're not just wasting your time, they're stealing your health. Setting boundaries. Without cutting them off. The key to dealing with an emotional storm chaser. Boundaries. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're a form of self-care. The next time they call, listen with compassion, but don't get pulled into the chaos. Keep your responses brief and neutral. Instead of offering solutions, say things like, "That sounds really tough." If the conversation starts spiraling into negativity, politely bring it to a close. "I hope things work out for you, but I need to get going now." Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. And if this pattern continues, it might be time for an honest conversation. You can say, "I care about you, but I've realized that too much negativity affects my well-being. I need to focus on keeping my stress levels low. It may be uncomfortable at first, but protecting your peace is not selfish, it's necessary." But here's the best part. When you stop allowing yourself to be pulled into their storms, you create space for peace, joy, and people who do uplift you. And speaking of boundaries, the next type of relative on this list isn't just after your emotional energy, they're after your money. And if you're not careful, they'll drain your retirement savings before you even realize it. The financial freeloader. Their problems become your expenses. You've worked hard your entire life. You saved, planned, and looked forward to the day when you could finally enjoy your retirement, whether that means traveling, picking up a new hobby, or simply relaxing without financial worries. But what happens when a family member starts seeing your savings as their solution? It starts small, Just a little help with rent this month, an unexpected car repair, or a temporary loan to get back on their feet. You help because you care. After all, family supports each other, right? But then the requests don't stop, and suddenly their financial emergencies have become your responsibility. Meet the financial freeloader, the relative who always needs money but never seems to have a plan to fix their situation. At first, their requests seem reasonable, even urgent. I just need a little help, and I'll pay you back next month. But somehow, next month never comes. Over time, the pattern becomes clear. They're not struggling because of bad luck. They're struggling because they know you'll always bail them out. Let's talk about James. He was 68, recently retired, and proud of the fact that he had finally paid off his mortgage. Life was good, until his nephew Brian lost his job. "Uncle James, I just need help for a month," he said. James agreed without hesitation, but a month turned into 6, then a year. Brian stopped looking for work altogether. He wasn't struggling. He was depending on James's generosity, and by the time James finally said no, he had lost nearly $20,000 with nothing to show for it. Here's the truth. Your retirement is not a family emergency fund. You spent decades working for this security. It's not selfish to protect it. And yet, so many of us feel guilty when we say no. Maybe it's because we were raised to put family first. Maybe it's because we worry that if we don't help, no one else will. But constantly giving to someone who refuses to help themselves isn't kindness, it's enabling. How to handle a financial freeloader without destroying your relationship. It starts with one powerful word: no. You don't need to explain, argue, or justify. If they ask for money, simply say, "I'm sorry, but I can't help financially." If you feel obligated to offer something, suggest non-monetary support instead. Help them find job resources, guide them toward financial assistance programs, or share budgeting tools. But do not hand over your savings. And if they try to guilt-trip you, remember this: protecting your financial future doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you refuse to sacrifice everything you've worked for because someone else refuses to take responsibility. The Overbearing Advisor. They think they know best now. What happens when a relative isn't after your money, but after your choices? What if, no matter what you do, there's always someone telling you that you're doing it wrong? Let's talk about the overbearing advisor, because unsolicited advice isn't always helpful. Sometimes it's just another way of controlling your life. Have you ever made a decision only to have a family member immediately tell you why it's wrong? Maybe you finally booked that dream vacation, started a new hobby, or made a financial choice that felt right for you. But before you could even enjoy it, someone swooped in with unsolicited advice about why you should have done things differently. Meet the overbearing advisor, the relative who always seems to think they know better. They might mean well, but their constant advice feels less like guidance and more like quiet control. They critique your health choices, question how you spend your money, and even have opinions on how you should spend your free time. Their words might not always be aggressive, but they plant tiny seeds of doubt. Are you sure that's a good idea? I don't think that's smart at your age. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And suddenly, something you were excited about now feels like a mistake. Take Linda, for example. She was 70, newly widowed, and had just booked a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Italy. She had spent months planning it, learning the language, researching places to visit, even treating herself to a new wardrobe. But at the next family dinner, her sister Susan scoffed. "Italy? Alone? At your age? What if something happens? Maybe you should stay home." Linda left the dinner second-guessing herself. Would it be reckless to go? Was she being irresponsible? She almost cancelled the trip until she realized something. Susan wasn't worried about her safety. Susan was uncomfortable with the fact that Linda was doing something on her own. Here's the truth. No one has lived your life but you. No one has faced your challenges, made your sacrifices, or earned your wisdom. So why should someone else get to tell you what's best for you? Advice can be helpful when you ask for it, but when it becomes a constant stream of criticism, it's no longer advice, it's control. How to handle an overbearing advisor. Without turning every conversation into a battle first, recognize that you do not need their approval. You've lived long enough to trust your own judgment. When they start offering opinions you didn't ask for, acknowledge their words without inviting more. A simple, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with my decision," shuts down the conversation while keeping things civil. If they keep pushing, redirect the discussion. That's an interesting thought, but let's talk about something fun. How's your garden doing? And most importantly, remind yourself that your life is yours to live. Not everyone will agree with your choices, and that's okay. What matters is that you're making decisions that bring you joy, confidence, and fulfillment. Now, if you think unwanted advice is frustrating, wait until you meet the emotional manipulator, because this next relative doesn't just question your choices, they make you feel guilty for not putting their needs before your own. And if you're not careful, they can trap you in a cycle of obligation that's almost impossible to escape. The emotional manipulator. If you loved me, you would. Have you ever said no to a family member, only to feel like the worst person in the world afterward? Maybe you declined a last-minute favor, chose to spend a holiday the way you wanted, or simply made a decision that put your well-being first. But instead of accepting it, they responded with a sigh, a guilt trip, or the classic, "After all I've done for you." Meet the emotional manipulator, the relative who knows exactly how to make you feel bad for putting yourself first. They don't make direct demands. Instead, they use guilt, obligation, and subtle pressure to get what they want. Every request comes with an emotional price tag. "I guess I know where I stand. I thought we were family. I just didn't expect you to turn your back on me like this." It's not what they're asking for, that's the problem. It's how they make you feel like you owe them. Carla knew this feeling all too well. At 69, she was finally prioritizing herself after years of caring for others. She had raised her kids, supported her family, and done more favors than she could count. But every time her son, Alex, needed something, it came with emotional strings. If she didn't babysit his kids last minute, she'd hear, "Wow, Mom, I guess I shouldn't have expected you to help." If she didn't lend him money, he'd say, "I just thought I could count on my own mother." At first, she always gave in. But one night, after another exhausting conversation, she realized something. She wasn't saying yes because she wanted to help. She was saying yes because she was afraid of the guilt. Here's the truth. Love is not a debt to be repaid. Your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice for others. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect, not guilt-tripping and obligation. If someone only makes you feel valued when you're doing things for them, that's not love. That's manipulation. How to break free from an emotional manipulator without causing a family war. The key is to recognize their tactics and refuse to play the game. When they use guilt, don't engage with it. Instead of arguing or defending yourself, respond calmly but firmly. "I understand that you're upset, but I have to make the best decision for me right now." If they push harder, repeat yourself without bending. The more you refuse to feed their guilt-tripping, the less power it has over you. And most importantly, remind yourself that saying no does not make you selfish. It makes you balanced. You've spent your life giving to others. You don't need to prove your love by sacrificing your happiness. Now, while an emotional manipulator can make you feel like you owe them your time, There's another kind of relative who takes things a step further. They don't just use guilt to control you. They quietly take over your life, without you even realizing it. And before you know it, you're no longer making your own decisions. The subtle controller, their help feels more like control. Losing your independence doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it happens one small decision at a time. At first it feels like they're just being helpful. They insist on running errands for you, managing your appointments, or handling small financial tasks just to make things easier. You appreciate it because, let's be honest, having a little help can be nice. But over time, you start noticing something. They're no longer offering help, they're taking over. Decisions are being made for you instead of with you, and before you know it, your independence isn't slipping away, it's being taken piece by piece. Meet the subtle controller, the family member who slowly and quietly starts making all the choices in your life. They might have good intentions, but their constant help sends one unspoken message. You're not capable anymore. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts with, "I'll just handle this for you." Then, "You don't need to worry about that." Before you know it, they're speaking on your behalf at doctor's appointments, deciding how you should spend your money, and even making social plans for you. This is exactly what happened to Bill. At 75, he was still sharp, active, and enjoyed handling his own affairs. But his daughter, Emily, wanted to take things off his plate. She started by scheduling his medical appointments, then changed them without asking. She began paying his bills online, then adjusted his spending habits. One day, Bill decided to buy a new car, only to find out Emily had already decided against it. "Dad, I just don't think you need that right now." That's when it hit him. Emily wasn't just helping, she was controlling him. Here's the truth: independence isn't just about mobility, it's about choices. The ability to make decisions for yourself is a fundamental part of who you are. No one, no matter how well-meaning, has the right to take that away from you. So how do you take back control without starting a family feud? First, set clear boundaries. The next time they try to take over a decision, step in with confidence. "I appreciate your concern, but I'd like to handle this myself." If they push back, remind them firmly, "I'm still perfectly capable of making my own choices, and I need you to respect that." If they insist that they're just trying to help, remind them that real help empowers, it doesn't take away. And if you've already lost some control, start reclaiming it. Get involved in your own finances again, make your own medical choices, and most importantly, trust yourself. Because here's the thing, your later years should be a time of freedom, not quiet surrender. You've spent a lifetime making decisions, learning lessons, and building wisdom. You deserve to keep that autonomy. Now, we've talked about 5 types of relatives who can steal your peace. But what's the solution? How do you set boundaries, protect your energy, and reclaim your happiness? Let's bring it all together with a powerful final message, because this next part is about you and the life you deserve to live. Final message: protect your peace, live your life. Life after 65 should be about peace, joy, and enjoying the freedom you've earned through years of hard work. But true freedom doesn't just come from retirement or extra time. It's about having the power to choose how you live. And sometimes that means setting firm boundaries with those who disrupt your happiness. Maybe you've recognized some of these people in your own family. The emotional stormchaser who constantly drains your energy with endless drama. The financial freeloader who treats your hard-earned savings as their own personal safety net. The overbearing advisor who constantly makes you second-guess your own decisions. The emotional manipulator who uses guilt to keep you under their thumb. The subtle controller who, pretending to help, slowly takes away your independence. But here's the most important thing to remember. You are not responsible for managing anyone else's chaos, fixing their problems, or living your life based on their expectations. Your time, energy, and happiness are just as valuable as anyone else's. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting people out of your life. It simply means refusing to let them steal your peace. It means understanding that you deserve to wake up every morning feeling calm, confident, and in control of your own life. It means acknowledging that your golden years are not about just getting by. They're about truly thriving. So ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to live? Do you want your days filled with stress, obligations, and exhaustion? Or do you want to surround yourself with people who bring you joy, respect your boundaries, and support your freedom? Because here's the truth. The best chapters of your life are the ones where you take back control and write your own story. You've spent decades caring for others. Now it's time to care for yourself. If this message speaks to you, share in the comments. What's one boundary you've set to protect your peace? Hit the like button if you're ready to reclaim your happiness. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living a strong, independent life. This is your time. Live it boldly. Live it freely. Live it your way.